My name is Linda D. Price, and I was 36 years old when my mother told my 15-year-old daughter she should be grateful she wasn't getting paid. Lily wanted to earn her first real money, not in a dramatic way, not because anyone pushed her, but because she wanted to stand on her own 2 feet in a way most adults still struggle with. She talked about saving for a camera, not a toy one, a real one. She wanted to buy clothes without asking for a card, to save for a school trip she'd been quietly planning for next year. It wasn't about showing off, it was about pride, the kind you feel when something is yours because you earned it. And I was proud of her. We both were. So when my mom offered Lily a summer job at the family restaurant, I said yes, even though something in me hesitated before the word left my mouth. The restaurant had always been complicated. It was where family and obligation blurred until no one could tell which was which. But my mother made it sound generous. Just help during the lunch and dinner rush, she said. We'll pay her, of course. It'll be good experience. My sister laughed and added something about learning the value of work. I wanted to believe them. I really did. For 2 weeks, Lily gave them everything. She showed up before the doors unlocked and stayed until the last chair was stacked. 12-hour days, no real breaks, just moments standing by the sink, catching her breath. She waited tables, washed dishes, mopped floors, took orders, handled complaints with that calm, careful voice she uses when she's nervous, but refuses to show it. She came home every night smelling like grease and sanitizer. Her fingers were red and cracked. Her shoes, the ones I warned her not to wear, were falling apart by the 5th day. She never complained. She kept a small black notebook in her drawer. Every shift, every hour. Notes in the margins like extra table or cleaned walk-in fridge. I saw her doing the math in her head, checking totals like it mattered because it did. She told me she wanted to surprise her dad by buying his birthday gift herself. That part stuck with me. The night it happened, we were waiting outside the restaurant as it closed. My mom was at the register counting cash. My sister sat nearby, scrolling her phone, sipping a Sprite. Lily stood there quietly, notebook in hand, and asked when she'd be getting paid. My mom didn't look up. She just said, "You're not getting paid." My sister laughed and added, "Honestly, you should be grateful we let you help." Lily didn't argue. She didn't cry. She stood still for a second, then went to grab her backpack. I didn't say anything either. Not because I was afraid, not because I didn't want to cause a scene. I stayed quiet because for a moment I was 14 again, standing in that same restaurant, being told I was lucky to be needed. We walked home in silence. At the door, Lily handed me the notebook. I didn't open it until she went to bed. When I did, I saw every hour laid out like proof that couldn't argue back. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling, replaying her face, not hurt, not shocked, just disappointed, like something she'd hoped wouldn't be true had finally confirmed itself. And sometime after midnight, I got dressed, took my keys, and drove back to the restaurant. The parking lot was empty when I pulled up to the restaurant. No lights inside, no cars, just the dull glow of the street lamp flickering like it was tired too. I sat there for a few minutes with the engine running, hands resting on the steering wheel, thinking about Lily's notebook sitting on the kitchen table at home. Every hour written in her careful handwriting, every extra half shift they asked her to stay. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't panicking. I felt steady in a way that scared me more than rage ever could. Then I got out of the car. 2 throws, 1 rock, 1 brick. The sound of glass breaking was sharp and violent, like a scream ripped through the quiet night. It echoed down the block, and then it was over. I didn't wait to see the damage. I didn't check my phone. I drove home, parked, and went inside like nothing had happened. Lily was asleep. I stood in her doorway for a moment, listening to her breathe, then went to bed without a single regret forming in my chest. By morning, their phones were already blowing up. Mine, too. By 7:52 a.m., I had 12 missed calls. My mom, my dad, 2 texts from my sister, a group chat notification from a thread I hadn't opened in months. Family biz. I didn't open any of it. I sat at the kitchen table watching Lily stir her cereal slowly, scrolling through her phone like the world hadn't cracked overnight. My coffee went cold in my hands. I wasn't drinking it anyway. At 8:04, the first photo hit Facebook. Someone driving past had posted it in the neighborhood group. 2 front windows shattered. 1 wooden chair dragged halfway onto the sidewalk. Glass everywhere. the neon open sign still glowing crooked inside like it had taken a hit too. By 8:10, my sister sent me the photo directly. "What the hell is this? Do you know anything about it?" I didn't reply. At 8:17, my mom called again. "Someone vandalized the restaurant. Call me back now. This isn't a joke." 10 minutes later, another message. "Did Lily see anything? Maybe she heard something." That one made me laugh out loud. Like Lily was the problem. Like they could squeeze answers out of her the way they squeezed labor. I slid my phone across the table and closed my eyes. By 10 a.m., the story had already changed twice. First it was a random break-in, then it was targeted vandalism. Then my mom was commenting online that it was probably someone from the homeless encampment nearby. Reading that almost broke something in me. Lily asked if she should answer her aunt's texts. I told her no. She nodded like she already knew. The worst part was what they didn't say. No mention of the money, no apology, not even a lie. Just silence around Lily's work, like it never happened. But now that something of theirs was broken, suddenly it was urgent. Suddenly it mattered. At 4:13 p.m., they showed up at my door. No warning. My mom stood with her arms crossed. My sister hovered behind her, wearing sunglasses like this was a mission. I opened the door because I wanted to hear how they'd twist it. My mom launched straight into how devastated they were, how much it would cost, how people were canceling dinner reservations. She said insurance might not cover it without camera footage. My sister added that maybe it was karma, actually used that word like they were the victims. They danced around it for 5 minutes before trying to rewrite the story. Lily volunteered. She wanted to help. They didn't realize she expected money. My mom finally said, "You should have come to us first. Not this." That was when I told them to leave. They didn't fight me. My mom muttered that I'd always been difficult. My sister called me ungrateful as she walked away. That night, the calls started again. Not to me, but to everyone else. By morning, the story they were telling was that I was unstable, that Lily was confused, that I'd poisoned her against them. But the truth was already leaking out, and this time people were listening. The next few days felt like standing inside a low hum that never stopped. Phones ringing, messages popping up and disappearing before I could read them. People whispering in places I wasn't in. Word was moving faster than I expected, not about the broken windows, but about why. Someone in the neighborhood group asked a simple question that changed everything. Why was a 15-year-old working 12-hour shifts at that restaurant in the first place? That comment sat there for a few minutes before anyone answered it. And when they did, it opened a door nobody could close again. A woman posted a photo she'd taken a few days earlier. Lily in an apron, handing out menus, smile tired but polite. Someone else recognized her and said she'd seen Lily there every night that week. Another person asked if child labor laws applied. Screenshots started appearing. Old ones. A church friend commented that they were still owed $50 for pies they baked last Thanksgiving. A former dishwasher wrote that he never got his final paycheck. None of them were angry. That was the part that scared me. They were calm, matter of fact, like they'd been waiting for someone else to say it first. My mom tried to get ahead of it. She posted a vague statement about family businesses being misunderstood and how young people today don't always grasp how hard it is to keep a place afloat. It got 6 likes and 17 laughing reactions. That was when I knew she'd lost control of the story. It wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to everyone they'd quietly taken from over the years. The meeting happened that Saturday at my aunt's house. Not official. Just one of those things you're expected to attend because blood demands it. Lily and I arrived late. The room went quiet when we walked in. I could feel my mom watching us from across the yard. She started talking before anyone asked her anything. Said there'd been a misunderstanding. Said the restaurant was struggling. Said she never meant to make Lily feel unappreciated. She said, if anything, she thought we'd all be grateful for the opportunity. That was when I stopped holding it in. I told them the truth, all of it. That Lily was promised pay, that she tracked every hour because she was told it mattered. That she skipped dinner one night because they needed her to cover another table. That my sister laughed when Lily asked about her wages. I told them about the notebook, about the silence, about the way my daughter walked home that night without saying a word because disappointment had settled deeper than anger ever could. Then I said the part everyone was waiting for. I looked straight at my mother and said it was me. I broke the windows. I didn't steal anything. I didn't go inside. I just wanted them to feel something. The room went still. My uncle muttered that he'd have done worse if someone treated his kid that way. A cousin spoke up and said they'd worked there once too and never got paid either. Another nodded, then another. It came out in pieces. Unpaid shifts, promised money that never came, favors disguised as family loyalty. No one raised their voice. No one needed to. My mom stood up halfway through and left. My sister followed her, calling me dramatic like always. I didn't chase them. I didn't need to. That night, I sat at the kitchen table while Lily slept, window cracked open to the night air. I felt calmer than I had all week, not because it was over, because the silence had finally broken. People had seen them. And I realized there was still one line I hadn't crossed yet. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying the meeting in my head, the way people's faces shifted when they realized they weren't alone in their stories, the way my mom left without looking back, the way my sister tried to turn it into another one of my so-called scenes. Around 2:40 in the morning, I got dressed and stepped outside. The air was cool and still, the kind that makes every sound feel louder than it should. I walked the 3 blocks toward my parents' house without thinking too hard about it, just letting the anger guide my feet. I knew exactly where my dad parked his car. I knew exactly what I could do that would hurt without hurting anyone. I had a small knife in my jacket pocket, nothing dramatic, just something I grabbed from the drawer, the kind you use to cut fruit. It felt heavier with every step. I stood there for a moment next to the car, looking at the familiar scratches on the door, the dent that never got fixed. I thought about Lily standing in that restaurant, notebook in hand, being laughed at. I thought about my mom counting cash without looking up. My sister's smile. I was ready. Then my phone buzzed. It was Lily. 2:43 a.m. She texted, "Mom, are you still awake?" That was it. No explanation. No accusation. Just that. I froze. Not out of fear, but because she was awake, because somehow she knew I wasn't home, because even without saying it, she was checking on me. I stepped back from the car, turned around, and walked home. When I opened the door, Lily was sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket, her notebook on her lap. She didn't ask where I'd been. She didn't scold me. She just said she didn't want revenge. She said she wanted dignity. She told me she didn't even care about the money that much anymore. What she wanted was for them to say it, out loud, that what they did was wrong, that they lied, that they used her, where everyone could hear it. I sat next to her and listened. It hit me then that while I'd been burning with rage, she'd been building something else. She didn't want to win by hurting them. She wanted to win by standing in the truth with her own name. The next morning, my dad's car wouldn't start. I found out from a cousin who sent me a photo. Hood popped open. My dad standing there in a bathrobe looking lost. Someone said a neighbor saw a figure in a hoodie hanging around the night before. Sugar in the gas tank. The rumor spread fast. And here's the thing. It wasn't me. I hadn't told anyone where I'd gone. I hadn't said a word about the car. Someone else had decided enough was enough. By that afternoon, the local Facebook groups were on fire again. Not about vandalism this time, but patterns. Former employees started commenting. A dishwasher said he never got his last paycheck. A woman who baked desserts said she was ghosted after Thanksgiving. A delivery driver said he waited hours in the parking lot and got blamed when food spoiled. Then a small local food blog reached out, asking for comment. Someone tipped them off about unpaid labor. They weren't asking about Lily. They were asking about history. My mom called me furious. I let it ring. My sister texted asking if I really wanted to ruin them over a few bucks my kid didn't even need. I didn't respond, because it had never been about the money. It was about how they treated people when they thought no one was watching. And now, everyone was watching. 2 days after the blog post went live, my dad showed up at our door. No warning, no text asking if it was a good time. Just him standing there on the porch like someone who knew he wasn't welcome but didn't know where else to go. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but like the weight of the last few days had finally pressed through whatever pride he usually wore like armor. His jacket was zipped too high. His hands stayed shoved deep in his pockets. When I opened the door, he asked if he could come in. The fact that he asked at all caught me off guard. I let him in mostly because I wanted to hear what version of the truth he was about to offer. He didn't sit down. He stood in the middle of the living room like it didn't belong to either of us. Lily stayed in her room. I didn't call her out. I wanted to hear him without an audience. He started where I expected, with the business. The restaurant was bleeding money. Catering clients had pulled out. An inspector showed up asking about miners and shift logs. My sister was calling former employees trying to get ahead of something that was already rolling downhill. He said my mom was a wreck. He said people were choosing sides. It all came out fast, like he was trying to dump the weight somewhere else. Then he slowed down. He looked at me and said, "We handled it wrong." It wasn't an apology, but it was more than I expected. He said they assumed Lily was just helping. That because she was family, it didn't count the same way. That they didn't realize how serious it would get, that he thought we'd all move on. I listened without interrupting. When he finished, I asked him one question. "Would you say that to Lily?" He looked down at the floor. He didn't answer. That told me everything. I told him to leave. I said nothing mattered unless he said it to her face. Not to me, not to the family, to her. If he couldn't do that, then he wasn't trying to fix anything. He didn't argue. He just nodded once and walked out. That night, Lily came out of her room and asked if her grandfather had been there. I nodded. She didn't ask what he said. She just told me they didn't actually think she mattered, that they thought I did because I was loud. I didn't know how to answer that. The truth sat between us, heavier than anything else. The next morning, my mom posted a long message online, not in the family chat, public. She talked about blurred lines between family and business, about lessons learned, about regret and miscommunication. She never used Lily's name. The comments filled up fast. Some people were sympathetic. Most weren't. They asked if Lily was getting paid. They asked if labor laws had been broken. They asked how many times this had happened before. My mom didn't answer. That afternoon, Lily got a text from my mom. Short, direct. She asked if she could apologize to Lily in person, with the whole family present. Lily read it 3 times, then handed me the phone. I asked her what she wanted. She said she wanted to see if they could look her in the eye and mean it, so we agreed. Sunday afternoon was set. My aunt's house. Neutral ground. And for the first time since this started, it didn't feel like we were walking into a fight. It felt like we were walking into a reckoning. Sunday afternoon arrived too quietly, like the world was holding its breath. Lily didn't ask what she should wear. She didn't rehearse anything in front of the mirror. She tied her hair back, pulled on her cleanest jeans, and wore a gray hoodie she'd almost outgrown, the sleeves just a little too short. There was something steady about her that day, a calm that only shows up when someone has already decided they won't be the one carrying shame. Before we left, she slipped the black notebook into her bag. I didn't ask why, I already knew. My aunt's backyard was fuller than I expected. Lawn chairs scattered unevenly, folding tables half set with soda cans and paper plates. Cousins I hadn't seen in years showed up. Relatives who usually avoided conflict stood close together, pretending to talk about nothing. This wasn't a party. It was a courtroom without walls. My parents stood near the patio, side by side but not touching. My mom's hands were clasped too tightly in front of her. My dad kept checking his pocket like he was making sure something was still there. Lily walked straight up to them. She didn't say a word. She just stood there and looked up, waiting. My mom spoke first. Her voice was low, but clear enough that everyone could hear. She said she was sorry, not just to Lily, but to everyone there who had watched what happened and knew it wasn't right. The yard went still. You could hear a bird somewhere in the trees. She said she was sorry for not paying Lily. She said Lily worked and deserved to be paid, that she treated her like free labor because she thought she could, because she'd done that to others before and no one had said anything. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. She said it was on her. Then my dad stepped forward. He didn't look at anyone else, just Lily. He said he should have said it sooner, that she didn't deserve what happened, that she showed up every day and they took advantage of that they told themselves because it was family, it didn't count the same way. He said it wasn't an excuse, just the lie they used to feel okay about it. He pulled out his checkbook and asked how many hours she worked. Lily opened her bag and handed him the notebook. He read it slowly, page by page, every line. He wrote the check in silence. When he handed it to her, he looked her in the eye and said he was sorry. Lily folded the check once and slid it into her pocket. She didn't thank him. She didn't say anything at all. That's when the dam really broke. My cousin spoke up first, said she worked there one summer at 17 and never got paid for closing the kitchen every night. An aunt admitted she baked hundreds of pies one Thanksgiving and was told it counted as helping family. Someone else mentioned repairs, deliveries, inventory, small things, big patterns. No one yelled, no one argued. My parents sat down at one of the folding tables and listened. For once, they didn't control the room. Lily ended up sitting on the steps with my nephew, showing him how to adjust the camera on her phone, explaining shutter speed like it was the most normal thing in the world. She laughed, a real laugh. I realized then it had been weeks since I'd heard it. Before we left, my mom pulled Lily aside. They spoke quietly. I didn't hear what was said. Lily didn't repeat it. On the drive home, she looked out the window and said, "That was enough." Then she added, "But I hope they mean it tomorrow too, not just today." I told her that was how you tell the difference between an apology and accountability. You watch who people are when no one is watching. The restaurant reopened the next week. There was a new sign in the window. Now hiring, paid training, transparent hours. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't redemption, but it was something. Lily kept the notebook on her desk, open to the last page where the hours ended and the line was finally drawn. Not for the money, for the moment, for the reminder that her time mattered, even when someone tried to pretend it didn't.